get to the last part of this. Do you think this guy can have a music career again? You guys know the business. Do you guys think that this will blow over? Do you think he's still because he still has a decent following on Facebook and social media and stuff? Iced Earth does. He just reissued a bunch of albums on vinyl. Looks like he just put up there. And what do you think it's going to be like for him trying to get back into doing what he does best, which is create music and play music? And since he's been pardoned, that makes things probably a little easier for him to get back into doing this.
No, I don't think it does. I really don't think it matters.
I don't either.
I think him being pardoned is no different than in the eyes of the people who are angry at him. Then I don't think you're going to hire Hunter Biden to be your accountant next year. You know what I'm saying? It's the same shit on the other side of the aisle. That pardon, if anything, is going to infuriate people. Yeah. And as far as I know, the deal was already cut, and he really didn't need it. So. Maybe it exonerates him, or does something for a technical standpoint for his long-term record.
I was talking legally, doing things legally.
Yeah, I mean, but here are the challenges I see that John's up against. He, for one, and just to put this out there, and one of the biggest challenges he's going to have is that Iced Earth's fan base is largely European, so. Mm-hmm. And I know that might almost sound like, oh, okay, well, that's good, but it's not, because your average centrist in America is the far right radical fringe of Europe. I think our moderate Democrats are considered right wing extremists in most of Europe. So I guess he can tour Poland. I guess he's all right in the far corners of Scotland, but I think for the most part he's going to have a real tough time there. If he does America, I can tell you for a fact, and I just know this from going to their Spotify before and after the incident. There was a point in time where we were going to do an Iced Earth cover for one of those metal injection things. So I went to their page quite regularly, and they were over 1 million monthly listeners on Spotify before the incident. And I checked today, and they're at 230,000. So they've only got 25% of the monthly listeners that they had before the incident. Mm-hmm. So if he is playing rooms, conventional logic tells you he's going to be playing for 1/4 of the people that he played for previously. I'm not saying that he can't do it. I think he's a prime candidate for the Red State Rock tour. He can play the Rust Belt. He's probably going to do okay in the South. I think he's going to get the Hulk Hogan treatment if he goes into California. I don't think there's any sense in him trying to play New York. I don't think Europe's on the table anytime soon. So I think he can have a career. Now, if Tim Lambesis can get a record deal, I don't see why in the hell Jon Schaffer can't. I think he could probably go to Napalm. It seems like they'll take about anything. They're willing to fall on the sword. So maybe Napalm Records is his next move. Yeah, I just think he's gonna have a tough time, man. Maybe he can link up with Kid Rock and fucking Jelly Roll, and
I was just thinking the same exact thing, man.
Yeah. He's gonna have a new audience, but I think the toughest part is, in order for him to own that audience, he has to go all in on. I believed in what I did, and I was a political prisoner, and blah 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 blah. And I don't think he wants to do that, because that kind of defeats the whole purpose in what he just said, what he just went through. I really don't know. I mean, I think he is gonna have to walk a fucking tightrope. He is going to have to kiss babies, shake hands with the right people, lay low, not do anything fucking dumb. And I think what's gonna happen, if I had to guess, this is my prediction, he's gonna rebuild his band. I mean, essentially the band is his songwriting. I mean, there's no secret there. He's gonna, whether some of the other guys come back or whether he gets a new group of guys, he's gonna very quietly, he's gonna negotiate a deal on the side someplace. Now, whether it's with a smaller label or, like I say, I think Napalm's probably a good move for him. He's going to record the music. No one's going to know anything about it, and they're just going to fucking drop a single. It's going to catch everyone off guard. It's going to be like that Poison the Well single that dropped today, and everybody's like, what the fuck? Who saw this coming? That's the move. And then you're going to get to gauge the climate. You're going to see if people listen. You're going to see what the reaction is. But yeah, I think if I'm him, I work on something, I get it done, I don't say a word to anybody about it, I drop it, and I gauge a reaction.
Yeah, explain the Tim Lambesis thing, just so in case anybody doesn't know what that is.
Yeah, I forget that who I'm talking to sometimes. No, Tim Lambesis, vocalist of As I Lay Dying, famously hired Hitman to kill his wife. You guy's a fucking idiot, and he was forgiven. He did his time. Everybody said, like, okay, this guy served his time. He went to prison. The hitman that he hired to kill his wife, for one, I think he was only paying like $2,000. It should have been the first red flag. So again, this guy's a fucking idiot that walked right into it. He gets a
You get what you pay for, bro.
yeah, he hires a hitman off of Temu. But no, so this dumbass, but he goes and he does his time. So he gets out. Everybody says, look, this guy did his time. Still to this day, anytime there's a post about him or the band, of course, it's like the very first thing that comes up, and a lot of people are just like, no, we're done with it. But at the same time, like, As I Lay Dying has been headlining fucking huge rooms. They wrapped up a European tour. They did Asia this year. And then the guy fucks up again, and videos surfaced of him like 3 weeks ago where he is punching himself in the head, screaming at his girlfriend. I guess we're moving in the right direction. He's punching himself this time. He kicks his dog. No one's going to forgive him for that because he kicked a dog. So he's pretty well going to get the Mitt Romney treatment from here on out. He's fucked. But this guy's had like 3 chances. And yet still, in the time since this motherfucker has been out, he is, I'm pretty goddamn sure, you fact check me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I think that their comeback album, which I think was Shaped by Fire, that album was released on Nuclear Blast and then signed to Napalm. So if this guy who tried to have his wife and the mother of his children killed and admits to it, he never denied it. It kind of credit to him, I guess. He took his lumps, but like, if this guy can come back, why in the fuck can't a guy come back who, like a stupid asshole, walked into a building and yelled at some people?
I'm just a little bit of pushback. You played South America, I'm sure, right?
We've played Latin America. We've not gone into South America yet.
I would imagine that Iced Earth would be welcome at the biggest possible rooms with the largest number of people in Brazil, for example. I mean, they're completely, the metal fans down there, they're unlike any I've ever played for in the world. I would guess that Mexico would probably feel similarly about him. I'm not sure they would care about his politics or what he did here.
No, I don't think so either. I think Mexico would be good.
Colombia or Argentina, Chile. So he'd probably do very well bringing the show back on the road down there. And I would guess that he would have a similar sized audience. In fact, it might even be bigger because he's been gone for a while. So that's one thing. The other is that I have to wonder how much his legal defense cost him. Mid-market band, he probably did very well for himself, but was he a multi-millionaire? Probably not. Again, I don't really know what his finances are like. But I would wonder if he would self-finance and create his own record label and get some distribution, which might be a better option. He does have a recording studio at his ranch. I'm fairly certain that's where he recorded the majority of his work over the last decade or so. So, and I was going to say he should just hook up with Kid Rock. It would be a perfect, that would actually work. A Jelly Roll was a cool addition too. But I think, sure, I didn't really think about the European angle, though. You're right. The most centrist American is just like a crazy lunatic to many politically motivated Europeans. So you're probably right. And that was the big audience right there.
Yeah, that's your payday.
Considering that a lot of his work centered around, American history, American wars, 1812, the Civil War, etc. So it's an interesting way. Speculating on it's very interesting. Who knows? But I wish him Godspeed. Truly, I wasn't like you, Justin. I wasn't like a huge fan, but I liked the music, and it was very unique. He carved his own space out, as I had said before. So of course he deserves a comeback, of course. And I think there's we're gonna find that the people that threw all the hatred at him really make up a smaller portion of the overall fan base than we might think. That's just, again, I'm just guessing, but I think it's probably safe to say.
Well, one of the things that I've always talked about, if you're going to be outspoken and if you're going to take a hard stance on anything, like you just absolutely have to own it. Yeah. I think that's if he comes out and tries to play fence walker, which I don't think's in his character, I don't think he would do that. But it's like what I call the Chick-fil-A effect. So like, obviously a lot of people, they're angry about Chick-fil-A's political stance, their religious point of view, whatever. But like, drive past any Chick-fil-A at noon and count the fucking cars in the
There's
drive-thru.
a line around the corner. It's weird.
Yeah,
It's a chicken sandwich place.
it is. So it's kind of like, if you want to think of it in this way, would you rather be loved and revered by 50% of the population with a hard line right down the middle, but you can completely own 50% of the demographic, or just have 100% of the demographic be completely indifferent, not give a shit that you're alive? So,
Good point.
you know, I think that, like, if he plays his cards right, he's you know, he's gonna have to, like, address this whole snitching allegation, because I know that kind of rubbed some people on the right wrong. But I think that's an easy one for him to, like, talk his way out of, or just, you know, kind of ignore and sweep under the rug. But I do think that, like, 50% of the population in the U.S. anyway is going to view this guy as a hero, and you know, that's 50% more than, you know, care about most bands.
Hey, John, you need a
cents
guitar
anyway.
player. You know, I'd be happy to play for you, bro.
I would hate to. I have had to play guitar in front of him, but yeah, I would hate to put my right hand up against his. As good as my right hand is, that guy is a fucking machine.
Yeah, you're right. He's a monster, man.
He's
a great
phenomenal.
player.
Yeah.
So let me add a couple things in here with him. So during the 2020, when this whole pandemic nonsense happened, I was watching some interviews with Jon, with people that were trying to, like, say he was wrong about his political views indirectly, and you would see Jon kind of speak over, like, it's a fact, this is what happens, right? And I think that because from the media standpoint, here's the interesting part about it, and I want you guys to think about this when you respond to me. I was probably one of the only people to post about him getting pardoned. Not one outlet. It's somebody. I had an interview earlier today. Before the interview, it came up. We talked about him briefly, and he's like, you know, you were like the only person that really posted about it. If you Google search his name, you'll see a video that somebody put up on YouTube from, like, a friend of his, and then right away, my Facebook page post comes up. Normally, you'd see you know, a post pop up from Blabbermouth or Loudwire or Metal Injection or one of these other outlets, but nothing was said. Now, the thing is, if this guy comes back, he's going to have to deal with a lot of these folks at these outlets that are going to interview him, that are going to, and I addressed this in an earlier podcast that I just posted. They're going to ask him loaded questions. They're going to do anything they can to get clicks, and to get clicks, most media outlets, no matter what they are, going all the way to Fox News and CNN and any of them, they will ask very loaded questions to try to get clicks, to bait him into saying something to try.
Yeah. I think that his publicist is gonna have to earn his money. He or she, whoever his publicist is, they're gonna have to do a pretty good job of vetting people. They're gonna have to pre-screen some interview questions, probably from some of the more aggressive outlets. You know, I think he's gonna probably do a handful of written interviews to test the water there. But they're gonna clip whatever he says and take it out of context, and I think he knows that. And I think he's just gonna have to be careful about what he says. He's gonna have to walk on eggshells a bit to not dump fuel on the fire, but I think Jon's a smart enough guy to navigate that. You know, as far as the clickbaity stuff, you know, the old saying, there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Mm-hmm.
If
there is.
there is, but you know, but it goes back to the 50% thing. So it's like, if metal sucks, just onslaught all day long. Jon Schaffer's this, Jon Schaffer's that. Well, you're still putting Jon Schaffer's name in front of everybody 10 times a day.
Right.
You know, and you're still, all the people who disagree, all you're doing is, like, making them want to like the guy more.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I think it could also blow up in their face, like they made us end up promoting the guy. It is almost kind of like a Donald Trump thing. They call him Teflon Don for a reason. You know, I think it's very similar. I mean, the media shits on that guy all day. He gets like 97% unfavorable coverage from the media. But it's all publicity.
It's amazing.
As Gene Simmons would say, if nobody's talking about you good or bad, you are irrelevant.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I don't know if you guys know this. I was reading about the way pardons and such work a couple days ago, because of course everybody, social media, they like to say things that they think are true, even if they haven't checked to see if they are or not. The way I don't know about you guys, but I don't like saying anything I haven't checked out because I don't want to sound stupid like everybody else.
Right.
So I was reading about how pardons actually work, and I meant to bring this up earlier, is that they are an admission of guilt that comes along with it. Mm-hmm. So in terms of any sort of where he's going to go moving forward, he's essentially said that he is guilty of all of the things that he has been pardoned for. Now I realize that he made a plea deal and pled guilty, but mm-hmm. at the same time, you guys are talking about clickbait. You're talking about trying to corner him on certain things or whatever. So if I was, a smarmy, unethical journalist, I'd start with that. So now you're admitting that what you did was insurrection against the United States, right? Stuff like that. And I think you're right, Justin. I think that if I were him, and if you wanted to take it the Trump route, Trump takes everything that, like with the, remember the garbage truck thing? People were blasting him about the garbage. So he gets a Trump garbage truck, which is just brilliant. It's masterful stuff. He should do something along those lines. Make a record about breaking out, about being arrested, about insurrection. Yeah, you're right. I'm owning it. And here's my new record all about it. Might actually be a great move. He might also be a career killer. But, when you have Trump's kind of money, you can take those risks. But at the same time, I started the conversation with you guys by saying that he clearly stands up for what he believes in. He doesn't shy away from it. No. I would be amazed if he came out and didn't double down on what he thinks.
Yeah.
I respect him for it too.
I could see that. I think that, I'm already getting comments on the video I posted, which I kind of gave you guys a good idea of what I thought here. And I said most of that in that video. And again, I can see it going one of two ways. I think that the more that they blast him, the more the name's out there, it's out in the press. And not only that, but we already know how hard it is to get heard and seen in the music business. But if you have every media outlet blasting him, right, it's going to help him. Now, at the same time, I wanted you guys to keep in mind, nobody said anything about him. And there is a very distinct possibility that nobody will have anything to do with him, aside from maybe people like myself that would just let him come on and talk and tell his story. But some of these bigger outlets, either one of two reasons. One, they hate his political ideals, or they are afraid of dealing with a backlash for doing an interview with him. And there is always that possibility of that happening because, again, the interviews that I'm talking about were from people that clearly had the opposite political viewpoints he did.
I think that you're assuming that these people have journalistic integrity for one. I don't think they do. Quite honestly, I think that they'll quote fucking Satan himself if it'll give them two clicks and sell an ad space. So I don't really think that's going to be a problem for them. I just think that the reason they're probably quiet about it right now is that if you look at what's happened with people recently, you've seen all these lawsuits being settled for libel and for having facts slightly wrong. So, a second ago, Christian kind of went into like what the pardon actually means. And I guarantee you that with a profile that large, a case like that, they're going to have legal look over anything before they send it out the door. Mm-hmm. So I think that could possibly be a delay. I think that maybe some of these outlets, obviously, the dirt sheet, metal outlets, they don't have a lawyer sitting in the room with them. It's not like the Washington Post or something where they can just quickly send it over to legal 4 desks down and get it back by lunch. Right. So, it may not be worth the clicks to pay for legal to review things to keep them out of hot water. I think the shit slinging will probably start back up the second he resurfaces in the public and starts with a project. But I think right now, I don't know that it does them any good. I think that a lot of people right now, regardless of your political ideology, I think we have seen the pendulum swing back in the other direction. If you look at even, the viewpoints of Mark Zuckerberg and some other prominent people recently, I think they have acknowledged that the cancel culture thing went too far, that the censorship went too far, that the dirt slinging and the hate and the vitriol and just turning on each other, just the ugliness of society. It all went too far. So, maybe just maybe somebody at some of these outlets grew a bit of a conscience, or they just don't want the backlash, or they realize that like their position is now unpopular. For the first time in 20 years, their position is unpopular. So I don't know if that weighs into it.
Well, if I may, you also had way higher profile people like Enrico Torrio, for example. You had the Proud Boys were given a blanket pardon. What was the other group? There was another militia type group that was actually indicted and prosecuted. I wish I could remember who it was off the top of my head. Very much like Proud Boys, and they were much higher profile. So that's what the press is talking about. So that it might just be a combination of the things that we've all brought up in terms of explaining that. So I think you've got Enrico Torrio. That guy was given 23 years and he wasn't even in the Capitol that day. He wasn't there. So it was seditious conspiracy, is what he was charged with. And in his interview, he was saying that they actually wanted to give him 30 years. And 30 years. To me, it's astonishing. And again, all of this is predicated on the idea that Donald Trump incited an insurrection. Well, nobody was charged with insurrection. Nobody was. Pretty hard to make that one stick. And also, I don't know about you two, and again, I fact check everything. So I literally went back and watched his entire speech that day. He said some crappy things. He said some things that, are ill-advised, and that's because that's what he does. But he also said, now walk down to the Capitol and peacefully and patriotically let them hear your voice. That isn't go down there and burn it down and break in. And and as you pointed out earlier, Tony, people have free will. If what they heard in their heads was some sort of secret message that wasn't there for the rest of us, that's on them. That if that's what they were getting out of what he said, I didn't hear it. I wouldn't have gone, hey guys, hey Tony, let's go to the Capitol. Trump wants us to riot. That's just stupid. I don't know how anybody heard that.
Well, and the idiots that were rioting, they were already at the Capitol before Trump's speech anyway. I mean, most of them were already there.
That's true. They were already up against the barriers before the speech was even over. So they
they didn't even hear a word he said. So how he incited it? Yeah, I mean, he said a lot of stupid shit. And but the thing is, the questioning of an election is nothing new. I'm old enough to remember when George Bush won, and it was all because debold voting machines were not secure. And I mean, you work at cybersecurity, so I'm sure you remember.
They aren't.
I know they're not. We all know they're not. But you remember, like the dude, I can't remember what night show he went on, but he like hacked a debold voting machine live and showed how he could like go in and. But I mean, this has been screamed about every fucking election since I've been alive.
Yeah, there was the incident in Ohio too when John Kerry was running against him. Same thing. Bush barely won Ohio, and there was all these questions about what was going on. It was in the news for like a year.
Yeah, they all do it. So I mean, I just think like saying that Trump's look, Trump is a fucking idiot. Like, did I vote for the guy? Maybe, probably. I'm sure you guys can put it together. But he's not smart. He doesn't think before he speaks. He's an idiot, and his ego is the size of New York City, and he should have just taken his lump and moved on. I wouldn't have wanted to be president for the last 4 years. If we're being honest, it's probably the best thing that ever happened to him, that he didn't have to continue down the path of dealing with COVID, the crushed economy and everything. It's like he came out smelling like roses, like Teflon Don, gets away with another one. But it was stupid. But he didn't say anything that hasn't been said. Like he literally just said peacefully, patriotically, let your voices be heard. Yep. How that translates to, overthrow the United States government. And to my last point on that, Jon Schaffer, this guy's a member of a militia. He is an avid Second Amendment supporter. He is a gun collector. I think he builds guns as a hobby. He does some gunsmithing because I think I talked to him about that. If this guy was going to overthrow the goddamn United States government, would he have at least taken a firearm with him? He was unarmed. Everybody in there was unarmed. That is the sorriest ass attempt at an insurrection in history, if you really want to call it that.
I am with you 100%. I've said it too. It's like a bunch of guys in their pajamas, out there in their Hawaiian shirts and their MAGA hats are going to take on the might of the United States government and think they're going to win. There's a lot of dumb people there, but I don't know if any of them were dumb enough to believe that they could do that. And that was what they set out to do. I think they were there to make a mess, to make a point, to raise awareness. That's to like, no such thing as bad press kind of thing. Did they cause people to think? No. And that is really kind of another way we can speculate on this whole thing. We saw fortunately I have the benefit of sitting in this wonderful place where I own the company that I work for. And I'm constantly looking at screens, and I have a TV on all day. So I'm watching C-SPAN, and I'm watching the January 6th committee hearings, and I'm going, this is a farce. This is a show trial. It is a dog and pony show. I'm not saying that they didn't bring up some stuff that was very relevant. They did. And it was very surprising to me when I heard some of the actual information that was presented. But I kept thinking, why are they bothering with this? Is it all that important? Was there really? No, it was if I were, again, to speculate, if I was on the Democrat team, if I was Chuck Schumer, and I'd be looking at this going, we do not want people thinking that there's something going on here because it's going to cost us votes. It's going to cost us power. We need to protect our power. So we need to push back this way to put the same kind of show on, the same kind of demonstration in the reverse that these people tried. Because we don't want the American public questioning us. We don't want the American public going, why were they there? Was this really a thing we should be worried about? Did they have a point? Or so if we can just turn it into, let's pick a villain. It's Donald Trump and his army. This is this group of Nazis and fascists, which that's a topic for a whole nother conversation because it steals the actual meaning and the depth and the power of what those words mean. If we can convince them of that, we can hang on to our power for another 4 years, and that should also quash any further attempts to bring this kind of thing, make this kind of thing something that people would want to think about and potentially participate in.
Yeah, and I can't.
That's far-reaching. I'm speculating.
No, but I can't fault them for wanting to make an example of these people either. But I think that two things can be true at the same time. What those people did was wrong, like unequivocally wrong. It's no way to conduct yourself. It makes everybody who voted for that man look bad. And if you are going to claim that you're his biggest supporter and you're going to, go as far as show it up there to, whatever the hell they thought they were going to accomplish, like just know you made everybody look bad. You made the whole movement look bad. Everything that he fought for, that you fought for, you made it all look bad. So two things can be true at the same time. What they did was very, very stupid. And the second point is they should have been made an example out of, but not in the way that they were. I think that there was probably an appropriate level of punishment. That level of punishment was not 3 years in a cell with no trial, with no pretrial, with no contact with the outside world for some of them. Yeah, so if you're going to say that you're defending the Constitution and the values of this country, everybody in this country is guaranteed the right to a speedy trial. They were denied that. People were treated as if they did not exist. Some of them were literally just thrown in holes and forgotten about. That is not how you make an example out of people. And I do understand, the political opposition's desire to make an example of them. You never want this to happen again. It should never happen again. It was very fucking stupid. Should never happen again. Unequivocally dumb. But I just think that it was completely blown out of proportion for political gain, for political clout, like anything else. And look, let's be honest. If it happened that way on the other side, they would have done the same thing.
Same thing.
So it's just opportunistic snake oil salesmen doing what they do best, and that's demonizing the other side for political points. So it's no surprise that they pounced on it. They would have been crazy not to pounce on it. Any strategist on the other side would have pounced on it. So again, you just shouldn't have been there. You guys shouldn't have been there. You shouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
I would also like to add, because all of that, you're right. This is a very important thing to recognize, is that, and this is what I've been saying too, because of course all the hand wringing and pearl clutching now is that Trump, the quote insurrectionist with his quote, Nazi army or whatever, now is running the country. And I like to assure people that are all upset about that don't worry. The con men, the rip-off artists, the liars that are much more skillful at conning you, lying to you, and ripping you off will be back in office soon enough, and you'll be all comfortable with them again.
On that note, I just want I do want to thank you guys for coming on. This was a lot of fun. We explored the depth of it. As I've said, I think the guy deserves a second chance. I think he made a poor decision, put a lot of people in a bad position. but he took responsibility for it. He acknowledged what he did was wrong. He acknowledged all the people that he did was wrong. That what he did was wrong. And I mean, that's all you can ask from somebody. I mean, that's really
John,
what it is.
Go play music, brother.
So I mean, if he comes out with an album, I'll cover it here. I mean, again, bad decision, yes. But if I based what I listen to based on people's political views, I wouldn't listen to 3/4 of the bands that I listen to anyway, right? So, I mean, the bottom line is that I think the guy deserves a second chance. I think people should look at the fact that, and I'll close my portion of this off with this. People should look at the fact he took responsibility. Look at the fact that the judge acknowledged him and complimented him for doing so. And again, he didn't really have a choice to do a plea deal because, like he said, he thought he was going to spend the rest of his life in prison. And actually, I just got a comment on the YouTube video I posted about him where someone said that exact thing. So, again, I think he deserves a second chance. I hope he comes back. And, he seems to have learned his lesson. And hopefully other people can see that and say, you know what? That's probably not a good idea to go down and do what he did. And realistically, that's how I look at it. And I'll let you guys say your last words before we end it.
After you, sir.
I mean, I think we've pretty well said what needed to be said. But
yeah,
I do appreciate you having me on. And this is a conversation that I avoided for a long time. So I'm glad that we finally had it. And if people want to get pissed off at anything I said, then I guess send it to Metal Sucks and see if they run it.
well, it's kind of like, again, I look at it as not a lot of people are talking about this whole situation. I think it needs to be talked about because the guy was a significant individual in the scene. And, like I said, it's nobody here is claiming this guy is like a massive terrorist, but we're not exonerating the guy for doing something dumb. I mean, he let himself, he had a can of bear mace and walked into a bear trap with it. Right. I mean, that's kind of, what I'm saying. So, I mean, but I enjoyed the guy's music, and honestly, I didn't really listen to his band, not because I don't want to, but I just really haven't thought of the band that much. And again, I don't really like to talk about anything at first until the actual facts of everything come out. I don't want to develop any kind of, I don't want to develop, I wanted to wait till he made a statement. I wanted to see what would come out from this whole ridiculous nonsense that happened. And I wanted to see what exactly was going to transpire as far as, what kind of information, what kind of video footage are we going to find, and I was willing to wait until my whole thing was I was waiting until he said something.
What a concept.
Yeah,
exactly. You've been waiting for information before you say something stupid?
Yeah, I wanted to.
Never heard of it. Yeah. Well, I mean, the other point I'd make is, like you said, if I had to agree with every musician in the world, then yeah, you can't. You don't know what half of your favorite musicians might totally agree with Jon Schaffer behind the scenes, and they'll never admit it publicly. I can tell you, I know a bunch of those guys.
Yeah, and that's a smart move too for some of them.
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes it's best just to be quiet. But
yep.
But the other part of that is, let's just look at some of the shit that some of these other guys have done. That they've gotten. I mean, Vince Neil fucking drove drunk and killed a guy. No, is Motley Crue still out there fucking disappointing fans around the world? Absolutely, and they're making a ton of money doing it.
Yeah.
Elvis married a goddamn 14-year-old. He's still the king, right? So, I mean, I would never do that. I would never drive drunk. I would never fucking marry a 14-year-old. But you know what? Goddamn it, Kentucky Rain's a good song, and Motley Crue still sucks. I mean, I'm gonna leave it at that.
God damn! I wish I could have said it better than that. There's no way I could. I'm supposed to follow that now. Again, and I wanted to thank you too, Tony, and to you too, Justin. It's genuinely a pleasure to meet you, and really good conversation, lots of fun. I think that there's a lot of people who also underestimate the capability, the intelligence of people who play hard rock and heavy metal music. And frankly, I've found that there's more people that are capable of thinking very clearly in this particular community than many others. So it's always a pleasure to talk about this kind of stuff with you guys. I really wish John Godspeed. I hope that and if he put out another record, I'd buy it. I'd want to listen to it and check it out. I like his dude, and I guarantee you that Justin, his tone. I've tried to copy that dude's tone. It's impossible. I don't know how he gets it, but man, his guitar tone is amazing. That's some seriously distinctive tone, dude.
The tone snobs would just tell you it's all in the hands, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
It's part of some of it, maybe the dynamics, but tone doesn't come. Tell me that fingers can translate information across electrical signals. They can.
No, maybe we'll get Glenn Fricker to have us on, and we'll have that argument over there. But yeah,
and James Murphy, who was on the other side of it from him.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
He doesn't like me anyway. But
James?
yeah, but yeah, it's been nice meeting you, and it's been a good conversation.
well.
And Tony, again, man, thank you for putting this together for sure.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks a lot, and it was fun, man. And if you want to do this again anytime, let me know. You know how much I love good discussion. Dave.
Hey everybody, Tony here from the Metal Command podcast. Again, I appreciate your support. Since 1998, I have hosted this show in one form or another, starting off in radio and now in the podcast format. Again, thanks for watching, and if you like what you see and hear on this show, by all means, please hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell to be notified anytime I do post a video, and if you see this program on any other form of social media, please give me a follow there. Again, I always appreciate your support.